The Muslim call to prayer resonates through the old Crusader chapel. A reminder of who ultimately prevailed here. This is the 12th century Crusader castle, Crac de Chevalier. Whoever held this mighty fortress controlled the gateway to Syria. For weeks, tour guide Abdul Musulman listened to the faint blasts of a modern war in Lebanon, barely 20 kilometres away. The war in Lebanon is very close, is very personal.
Yes, yes, there's many problems.
Where are all the tourists? Why aren't the tourists here now?
Now we have the war. It's a problem tourists come here.
Normally this is one of Syria's top attractions, yet Abdul Musulman is far from dejected. For he feels he is living a great moment in history. Above the gate are what he calls the lines of Syria. Syria's late president, Hafez al Assad, his son and successor, Bashar, and now they're joined by Hezbollah leader, Hassan Nasrallah.
In Arabic his name, he's 3 lions. You know, he's Al Assad. Al Assad is male lion.
Here, Nasrallah is a lion, he's a hero.
Yeah, yes. He's a strong man. Hassan Nasrallah is very important for Islamic.
And for Syria?
Yes, yes, yes.
The long road to Damascus. The closer you get, the clearer the message that ruling this country has long been a family business. Hafez al Assad reigned with an iron fist for 30 years until his death in 2000, when he was succeeded by his son Bashar, a London-educated doctor. Omnipresent father and son have been joined, even upstaged, by this bearded Lebanese cleric. An unprecedented move in the iconography of Syrian politics. Hassan Nasrallah, leader of Hezbollah, self-proclaimed victor of Lebanon's month-long war that shattered the reputation of Israel's military invincibility. Now he's fast becoming the hero of the Arab street.
لا كلياته على طلب أي صورة لسماحة السيد حسن عم تلقى مبيع بشكل كبير وإقبال الشعب السوري.
For Cabinet Minister Buthaina Shaban, Hezbollah's hero is Syria's hero.
I think now we discovered that Israel is a huge myth and it tries to win the war before it starts. And the most important thing that happened in the last month is that people who believe in themselves, who believe in their territories, could do miracles.
For the Syrians, there's more at stake than just pan-Arab pride. Both Syria and Iran invested heavily in making Hezbollah more than just another photogenic parade day guerrilla army. Notably absent from Hezbollah's pre-war marches through Beirut were the Iranians, who supplied the money and the missiles that rained down on Israel. Also missing, the Syrian advisors, who provided vital logistic support. Well, there's now a peace deal of sorts in place. Will Syria continue to provide arms to Hezbollah?
Well, Syria first is not providing arms to Hezbollah. I think the starting point of Western opinion started with a huge underestimation of Hezbollah.
But the rockets that rained down on Israel, they came from Iran. The anti-tank missiles that destroyed so many Israeli tanks in southern Lebanon, they came from Syria.
Well, I don't know about that, but the weapons could come from anywhere. This is not the issue, where the weapons came from. You know, planes of American bombs came to Israel. Israel has a huge military arsenal. It's not the issue where the weapons come from. The issue is, why is this aggression? Why is this war? The real issue is why there is no peace in the Middle East.
Many others see a very different agenda at play here in Damascus. The only problem is speaking out against the regime or the ruling Ba'ath Party can often lead to arrest, exile, or worse.
Hi, Ayman.
Hi, fine, thank you. And you?
Good to catch up.
One critic who is prepared to emerge from the shadows is Ayman Abdel Nour. He talks with the knowledge of an insider, an advisor to the younger president, Bashar al Assad. Al-Nour says he quit when promised reforms failed to eventuate.
Why haven't you been arrested like so many before you?
There is many different views here in Syria according to the intelligence and the government and the Ba'ath. There's many says we cannot arrest everybody. And second, we don't want to arrest anyone with his popular because we will make a hero from him. It's crowded there.
Ayman Nour says that Syria is now taking a huge calculated risk by courting radical Islam.
The crusaders, the new cons.
The evidence of this strategy up on the billboards for all to see.
With the Islamic power, the political Islam power in Syria.
So this is new, is it?
This is new, and he sent them a message that also all the conservative Sunni, which they are mainly the majority of the Syrian people, he wants to gain their supports for him.
So what does it actually say?
That Syria is protected by God.
For the profoundly secular Assad regime, which had long worked hard to keep Syria's diverse Muslim and Christian factions in check, it's quite a change of direction to be now harnessing the power of political Islam.
Just look around you and you'll see 80% are wearing veil instead of 10% and 60s. When the Ba'ath took power, it was 10% only women wearing veils. Now it's 90%.
Ayman Nour says the strategy is to send a very clear message to Israel and the US. Do business with this government because the alternative is far more frightening.
Do you think the government is playing with fire?
Yes, of course. And they know that. And they know the danger they put themselves in, and they are trying to deal with it. They know. The regime knows.
It's a gamble.
It's a gamble, but to send to blackmail or to send a clear message to US, it's either us or you have to deal with those fanatics, radicals.
Down at Friday prayers, one of Syria's leading Sunni clerics talks of jihad, or holy war. Like all Muslim leaders here, Sheik Mohammad Hasbah chooses his words carefully. While Syria's regime sponsors extremists in other countries, Islamic militancy at home has always been swiftly repressed. As many older worshippers remember all too well, in the early 80s, a fundamentalist Muslim uprising was brutally crushed, leaving up to 30,000 dead. Emboldened by Hezbollah's stand in Lebanon, Sheik Hasbah says there are now growing calls for the creation of a Syrian Hezbollah-style force to take the fight to the Israelis.
There is more than one way to defend for ourselves. There is official army and there is guerrilla war. Our people here is very eager to guerrilla war, unlike the resistance in south of Lebanon.
Yemeni boys who've joined Al-Qaeda.
Sheik Abash proclaims himself a moderate who is prepared to negotiate with the Israelis. But the war in Lebanon has radicalized Syria's youth.
Israel created a new generation. I like this. This kind of generation is ready to attack, to destroy Israeli state. Believe me, that was not before 1 month. We can call by high voice to peace process and to make a chance to 2 states in the Middle East. But now, believe me, we have no chance.
But has the policy of harnessing the fundamentalists backfired? Ayman Abdel Nour says it's the regime which has been carefully exploited by Islamic extremists through business deals and marriage.
I assure you something, the biggest danger for the regime in the eyes of the top regime people is radical Islam, the radicalists in Syria.
So why don't they go back to the old days, as the elder Assad would have done, and arrested everyone in the middle of the night?
They are doing that, but they cannot do it because it's very powerful now, and it's interlinked with the army people. They have now a common interest with business. They have maybe working in the same business, in the same factory, and maybe they are, there is now marriage between all this, the army and the intelligence people with some families. So it's not very easy like before.
These calls, if you like, for the creation of a Hezbollah-style movement here in Syria, they're coming from the mosques. Do you have a problem here with Islamic militancy?
You know, I think, I think the term Islamic militancy is also a term that I object to. I think what we are talking about is that we are talking about a feeling that the Arabs feel humiliated, feel degraded, that they feel they do not accept occupation.
Sheik Abash says his followers are demanding the return of Syrian land occupied by Israel. And if the government isn't prepared to go to war, there are others who will.
They feel motivated by Hezbollah to do something similar with Golan Heights.
Yes, this is exactly what our people are looking for. Maybe the government now control everything, and the government now maybe forbid to find any attack in Golan Heights, but I can tell you honestly, government and our leadership cannot still forever in control for everyone.
For Syrians, all roads lead to the Golan Heights, a short drive south of Damascus. It's been occupied by the Israelis since the 1967 war. Twice the Syrians have fought the Israelis here, both conflicts ending in defeat and humiliation. Years of delicate negotiations with Israel over the return of Golan collapsed in 2000. The regime likes to bring visitors here to what's left of Quneitra, the last town under Syrian control. Under a United Nations brokered peace deal in 1974, the Israelis withdrew, but not before destroying most of the town. Government spokesman Muhammad Ali says Quneitra is a memorial to an unfinished war.
So how many buildings were actually destroyed? How much of the city looks like this?
98%. We will rebuild the city, but when we complete liberation. We lift it like this as a life witness to Israeli barbarism and savagery.
On the Golan Heights, the mist breaks to reveal a bristling Israeli surveillance post, a modern-day Crac de Chevalier, where the imposing defences are electronic rather than stone. The Syrians vow that one day this too will fall.
For Golan, we will retrieve it because our nation has experienced several kinds of occupations. Some of these occupations lasted for hundreds of years, but at the end, all occupations left. So a few years in the age of nations mean nothing.
Golan is patrolled by 1,000 United Nations peace monitors. Their anxiety growing over calls for a Syrian jihad here. Fearing any comment may inflame the situation, no one from the UN will talk to us. The powers of the peace monitors in such a conflict remain unclear. Their job is to maintain a buffer zone, separating the national armies of Israel and Syria. The UN worries that it would have no authority in confronting a guerrilla force. Everyone here feels the legacy of Hezbollah's Hassan Nasrallah.
Here we have Syrian checkpoint, UN checkpoint, and an Israeli checkpoint.
It's all very, very close here, isn't it?
Yes.
Why is Hassan Nasrallah up there?
All Arabs are important for us because we all support each other and defend the rights of all Arabs.
Is it all part of the same struggle, or are they separate?
Look, with the Syrians, from our point of view, we have one cause.
And that is?
The occupation of Golan.
Attempting to gauge genuine public opinion in Syria is difficult. In this centrally controlled society, a brave few take on a risky dissident role. While people like director Najdat Anzur work within the system. We find him on location of his latest production, a 30-episode TV series. Syria is a land of political metaphors, and the theme here is fear, set in an unnamed country in the distant, indeterminate past.
It reflects our society in the Arab world. When we have something, the fear, we discuss the fear. How the people fear from something it's not exist. We explain to them through the drama here that the first of all, if you want to be a labor, you want to get your freedom, you have to get the fear out from your soul.
The story centres on ordinary people, forced to distinguish between good and evil. A metaphor, he says, for the dilemmas faced by Syrians. For years, Najdat Anzur has worked carefully not to cross the so-called red line by criticising the regime, the president, or the feared intelligence services. But now, he says, the prospect of reclaiming Golan has created an extraordinary national unity.
Everybody, even myself, I feel better now. Everybody feel better because before all the wars with Israel, we lost everything. Now we feel that we can stand up again. I think this war will not stop very soon. There is a lot of bad days waiting a little bit. But in the end, the victory will come.
Within days of the ceasefire in Lebanon, President Bashar al Assad is starring in a production of his own. A nationally televised address to the Syrian Journalist Union. We are barred access. Apparently, there's no room for foreign media. The Syrian press and the Ba'ath Party faithful listen as their leader bathes in the reflected glory of Hezbollah's battles and taunts Israel.
الوضع العربي تجاه إسرائيل. فإذا نقول لهم لقد ذقتم الذل في المعارك الأخيرة في لبنان وفي المستقبل أسلحتكم لن تحميكم لا الطائرات ولا الصواريخ ولا حتى القنابل الذرية.
For some, this performance highlights Assad's real agenda. That Syrian support for Hezbollah in Lebanon has always been about just one thing: pressuring the Israelis to return the Golan Heights.
Syria, its interest is to gain the Golan back. They cannot open a direct clash and war with Israel. We cannot win. They know that. So for this, we will make the war on other lands, which is in Lebanon, through supporting Hezbollah in Lebanon, through supporting the resistance, the military resistance in Iraq, through supporting Hamas and jihad in Israel, which make all these cards. So when you have all these cards, you can maybe secure a place in the table of negotiation to stay that way. I can calm all this down in exchange of a balanced and fair and just peace.
But the question now is, can Damascus emerge from this latest brinkmanship as a winner? Or is Syria now sliding slowly towards another war?
When people have a right, they have to reclaim it. We would prefer to get the Golan Heights through negotiations. We would prefer to make peace through negotiations, not through war. And we have been trying hard to make peace through negotiations. It's Israel, backed by the US, who refuses to make peace unless they make us subservient to the Israelis, something that we would never accept. We would rather die than be humiliated.
If you study the situation deeply, you can find that we are going for more violence and more bloodshed in the Middle East.
If a Syrian Hezbollah does take to these hills, Ayman Abdel Nour believes that Damascus will offer covert encouragement, while publicly distancing itself from what it euphemistically calls a non-government organisation, or NGO.
They will try, as they play it in Lebanon, to separate or disengage. So they will differentiate themselves. This is an NGO, like Hezbollah, and we cannot control it. And this came as an answer for the request of all the Syrian citizens. This is how they will play it. They started 2-3 months ago.
How dangerous is this for Syria to, if you like, initiate?
This will depend in the Israelis if they are going to buy this as an NGO or it's a regime, the Syrian regime.
يمينك وراك بالضبط صخرة صغيرة وراك وراك لا لا.
Back on the set, Najdat Unzor is directing a bloody climax to his series, as the ordinary people of his fantasy village are caught up in an apocalyptic confrontation between two kings.
This is our target, the fear, really. Because everybody has some kind of fear. Fear from the future, fear from the present.
And of course, this is not a real country, this is a fantasy.
Exactly.